Am I good enough? Am I good enough? My family needs this. What if I fail? What if I can't? What if I make the wrong? How is this not easier? If I make the wrong decision, why can't it be like it is in my head? I need to keep moving forward. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? I wish I was a better leader, a better teacher. Should I just stick to my day job? Am I just wasting my time? Am I good enough? Can I do it? I don't want to fuck it up. What if I can't do it? What if I go broke doing this? What if I fail? Am I good enough?
You made it by yourself this far, but you ain't gotta shine alone anymore. Cause when you find your place in the stars, the universe opens the door. Shout out to my allies, you know we gon' prosper. Demons bidding on our hearts, we turn down the offer. You know I just want success, yeah, that be my water. Yeah, do it for the team, do it for my daughter. Try to tell me I can't do it, got me going harder. Got a couple partners, now I'm working smarter. Always keep good company, I'm a Kickstarter. Ain't no finish lines here, yeah, we went farther. Entrepreneur for life, I'll be a boss of the deck, getting these tracks, finally doing the right. Me and my crew on the vibe, yeah, we the best. Think that we losing the night, we get it back when it's time, we never rest. That's for the billionaires, best believe when we get there, we gonna flex. And I know, you've been fighting wars all alone, solo. Bet you thought the battle was over, oh no. Get a war cry over your shoulder, let's go. We gon' take this one home. You made it by yourself this far, but you ain't gotta shine alone anymore. Cause when you find your place in the stars, the universe opens the door. You made it by yourself this far, but you ain't gotta shine alone anymore. Cause when you find your place in the stars, the universe opens the door. Numbers don't lie, it's the world against you and I. If we just fight, we don't die, we just multiply. We don't see the fit, we won't be on no losing side. We just gon' keep surfing 10 toes into the tide. And I know, you've been fighting wars all alone, solo. Bet you thought the battle was over, oh no. Get a war cries over your shoulder, let's go. We gon' take this one home. You made it by yourself this far, but you ain't gotta shine alone anymore. Cause when you find your place in the stars, the universe opens the door. You made it by yourself this far, but you ain't gotta shine alone anymore. Cause when you find your place in the stars, the universe opens the door.
Awesome, guys. I am so excited. I'm debating on how we want to do that in the very beginning. Do we want to leave it going forever? Do we want to leave it only for a portion of the song? But I'm so excited to have Justin here with us today at a DFW. And I think this is going to be a really unique episode, because today it's not really just about real estate. It's not just about all of his successes, but one thing that Justin really has that, not that the other, guests thus far have not had, but Justin's a really huge mindset guy. He has an awesome TikTok, which we'll probably talk about. He's got an awesome Instagram channel, and genuinely, he's a very genuine dude. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. I'm looking forward to getting into all of his successes, his strategies, everything he's got going on. So we're going to bring him on in just a second, but I just want to let those that are going to be listening to this on iTunes know that, we do this live. However, it does still post onto iTunes on that following Friday or whenever it is that it's going to post. So if you want to get notifications on how to watch it live, see the video and all that stuff, make sure you follow REI Sift on Facebook, or at least watch the YouTube channel. Go subscribe on YouTube and find us there. So make sure you guys ask questions, stay tuned, and get ready for the Q&A at the very end of this episode with Justin Peters from DFW. Man, I appreciate you hopping on, dude.
Man, I'm glad to be here with you, Tyler. I've been seeing you making moves. This podcast, I've been listening to it, and it's an honor to say the least, brother.
Dude, thank you so much, man. So I always like to explain a little bit in the very beginning kind of how we do this for everybody. So we're going to be taking you through the gauntlet of what I call the myths of entrepreneurship, right? And in this scenario, being live now, people probably ask questions about those different myths, and we might kind of give some responses back to that. But the idea here is to figure out kind of where's your brain at for someone who's had the success that you've had, which we'll talk about here in just a second. You know, what has got you there? Because I think a big misconception is that, you know, entrepreneurs and investors, real estate people, people that build software companies, people that build, you know, roofing companies, these people that have a lot of success, they're just normal people. And that's true, but they're normal people that do things in a very different way than normal people. So that's what these gauntlets of questions are all about, man. So before we get started, man, tell us a little bit about yourself. Kind of like, where do you come from? Are you from Texas originally? Like, give us a synopsis from before to now.
Yeah, man. So I'll make the story somewhat short. Growing up, I was your typical knucklehead kid, man. I graduated in, I think, the bottom 3% of my class. Growing up in high school, I was the kid that got sent to the principal's office. My mind was everywhere other than where it should have been, pretty much, man. And I remember a very pivotal moment in my life growing up was my senior year of high school. It was the day we all were supposed to find out what colleges we got accepted into, so on and so forth. And there I was, man. I applied to, I think, 6 or 7 colleges. Had a horrible SAT. Didn't have any prep. No one in my family had ever gone to college or anything like that. And I, you know, obviously got denied to every single college that I'd applied to. And that time was such a critical time to me because I saw all my friends kind of flying high and they were on track and trajectory to do what they had planned to do and what their family wanted them to do. And there I was, just this knucklehead kid trying to think that I could just kind of play my way through life and that everything was going to work out. And as you know, once you get out of high school and you turn 18, you're kind of on your own. And the next steps you take are pretty critical to see, you know, what that rest of your life is going to look like. And so long story short, man, I decided and committed to make a pretty dramatic change in my life. I went from being one of the, you know, on paper, the dumbest kids in my high school to graduating cum laude at Texas A&M. And just with discipline and commitment and a burning desire to want to prove to other people, and most importantly to myself, that you can make that dramatic change, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what your upbringing was or your family, no matter what the excuses that a lot of us hold on to, you can make it happen. You can make the change and you can make your life whatever you want it to be. And so fast forward, I knew for me personally, I've always loved, you know, people in general, and I've loved challenges. So real estate was always something that I had my focus on. In college, I got my real estate license. Year after I graduated college, I had student debt as far as I could see. So I went to the oil and gas industry for a full year, worked like a slave in that industry. And then I was able to pay off all of my debts and then jump straight into real estate in DFW, man, where I started with a wholesale company, then helped establish a company called Open Door. And then fast forward, man, I knew being an entrepreneur is what I wanted. And although Open Door was one of the best experiences I've ever had, that voice in my head was just so loud at the time, and I had to take that leap and go out on my own, man. And the rest is kind of history.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I didn't know about the piece about the Open Door section there. That's really interesting. Tell me a little bit about in that college space, right? Like, what made you want to get your license in college? Was it because of the debt? Just because you knew what you wanted to do? I mean, that's kind of like, I know there's a lot of people who might do that, like they get jobs, but not necessarily like, you know, get licenses.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I wanted to get my license just because I knew with what I was going to do, I kind of had it mapped out, man. My junior and senior year, I knew that I was going to have some type of job that was going to pay fairly well. At that time, you know, 2013, the oil and gas industry was booming. So yeah, I knew I wasn't going to have much time whenever I was working in that field. And so I wanted to make sure I could get my license before. And that way, whenever I was ready to rock and roll in Dallas, Fort Worth and go back to my hometown, it was ready to lock and load. And I would, you know, be able to kind of expedite that process, not have to wait another 3, 6, 9 months to work on the license piece.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's interesting too, because it shows a form of patience, right? An outlook, right? A lot of people want this stuff right now, but this stuff has been brewing since 2013. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Okay, cool. Awesome, dude. Well, that's an awesome backstory from a 1.8 GPA to multiple 7 figures in real estate transactions and stuff like that. So to give us an idea kind of where you're at right now at the very moment, like with your like businesses. We're going to go into details about some other stuff in a little bit later, but where are you at right now? Like what is everything you got your hands on?
Yeah, man. So 4 months ago, we just started a roofing business. I've got a really good investor friend of mine who's been in roofing for quite some time. And so we're kind of bringing our marketing and sales piece and just our way to be able to structure a business into, his expertise on the roofing side. Not to mention it's very symbiotic to what we're already doing with real estate. A lot of the same leads that we get, it transitions very easily. So it just made sense for us to put our heads together and to create a business, which is Countrywide Roofing Solutions. And other than that, man, we've got Jay-Z Home Buyers, which we've got a team of 19 people right now, 8 in-house and 11 that are virtually working for us. And up to this point, I'm actually in Jacksonville, Florida right now, but up to this point, we've just been centralized in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. It's kept us busy enough. It's such a big market that we haven't really scaled up to this point, but now with the infrastructure that we have and with the team that we have and the leadership, so on and so forth, we're able to now take what we currently have, our structure, our systems and processes, and start putting them to other markets as well. And Jacksonville is going to be the first market we're doing that in.
I love it. And we're going to talk a little bit about how, you leverage, like you said, your structure and your team to kind of be able to expand. And I have a couple questions in my ninja tips and tricks on the sales and marketing side that I'm going to kind of throw at you to hopefully give some people that are specifically in the real estate space, or maybe you're not even in real estate, maybe you can glean from kind of what he's done, kind of have that scalability because he's done some pretty amazing numbers. So, all right, so let's get into the gauntlet, man. My very first and most favorite question for everybody, because everyone always has a different answer. And I will say to premise towards the end of this, we always ask like what our whys are, right? I started saying early on, outside of the being live, that like most people are like, oh, it's my family, right? So before we even get to that point, I want you to think about how that's not going to be your answer, because that's everybody's answer, right? No, like we wouldn't be doing this at all. I mean, unless you're like a greedy bastard, like just for yourself, right? There's bigger reason, there's a bigger purpose. But let's get into what is your motivator for prosperity, man? Like, why even do all this stuff in general?
Yeah, this is a very, very good question and a deep question to say the least. You bring up, what's our why? And I'll be honest with you, Tyler, for the longest time, I've struggled tremendously for finding what that why was. Don't get me wrong, with what I do, contribution is definitely a huge part of it. Being able to build a business that'll hopefully last for 100+ years, being able to have a platform for other people to join and reach their full potential, not having to worry about what's in my bank account, not having to worry about if I'm going to be paying for a dinner. All those things are great. And I really never came down to the end. So I had a meeting with my mentor, and this happened less than a month ago. So I've been diving into this since I got into the personal development side of things, which was back in, like 2011, when I really started diving into myself and wanting to be the best version of myself. And I just found this out literally about a month ago. So if that helps anyone out there who's trying to find this question themselves, be patient with it and understand you don't have to just know it right from the get-go, and it can come with time once you've kind of gone through multiple different things. And for me, Tyler, my motivator for prosperity is really just wanting to win. As crazy as that sounds, wanting to see how far I can stretch myself, how much I can do, competing with that self that I see in the mirror every day, competing with that inner voice that's trying to tell me that I can't do it, competing with the people of my past that doubted me. I want to win at whatever I put my mind to. It doesn't matter if it's chess or checkers against my grandma. I want to be the absolute best at what I do. And I have a burning desire, and I've always had a burning desire to take anything that I'm doing head on and not just dabble in it, and want to become the absolute cream of the crop with whatever it is that I have my attention on.
I mean, I love it because like it's nice to be able to know, like, because when people have the ideals that it's like, well, I'm just doing this for my family. It's like, okay, well, so you're spending all this time doing all this just for your family. Like, don't you think if you really loved your family, you'd be doing like spending more time with your family? Like, it's a contradictory statement. So I love that explanation, that precursor to your statement. Like, listen, I'm doing this honestly, like for me, because if I don't do it for me in general, like me speaking personally, like if I don't do these things for me, if I don't fix my desires and my needs to be like the best at what I'm doing, then it hurts my family, because like I'm not there mentally where I need to be at in order to execute and perform as a husband and a father and a son even, you know. I think that's being tested really strongly, you know, throughout this year with the whole COVID situation and everything else, you know, people's priorities. So I love that question, or that response to the question. And let's move on through the gauntlet, man.
Yeah.
All right. So what this is the one everyone wants to know about. Like, they want to know, like, why is this guy even here? Like, does he make good money? Is he just a mindset guy? Whatever. Well, you're both, right? So, so what is your mainstream of wealth? You know, you're starting this roofing company. You have the real estate company. Like, let's break down that. And I always like to preface again, and people have different opinions here, and it's totally okay. The difference between wealth and revenue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So that's another solid question, man. My mentor once told me, you know, Justin, you always have to have something that's going to be bringing food on your plate, right? But then in the end, you always want to be focusing on the long-term game. So I know there's a lot of different definitions floating around for what, you know, quote unquote wealth is. To me, wealth is generational money. Wealth is something there my grandkids are going to be set up from the hard work and the commitment that I'm putting in right now. And so to keep the cash, you know, on the cash side, that's going to be our roofing business that we have, Jay-Z Home Buyers, which is going to be, you know, wholesaling, fix and flips, you know, referrals. And we've got a brokerage that we have in-house as well for the buyer rep and the seller rep. And then for my long-term wealth, man, you know, I want to make sure I know real estate. I don't know stocks. I don't know other things like that. And so I want it to be very symbiotic. And so my long-term wealth is my rental portfolio, owner finance, and then anything and everything else that makes sense to me, common sense. I'm a very simple guy, and I want it to just make sense. And I want it to be something I can know, and I want it to be very tangible. That's very important to me. And so for me, my wealth is definitely using those few things up front, the cash side for roofing, for wholesaling, fix and flip, so on and so forth. And then the long-term wealth is just definitely going to be building my portfolio from a rental and an owner finance side as well.
Awesome. I love it. So really, and I love the what you know piece of it, because a lot of people try to start delving off and all these other things. You know, they say the average millionaire is what, 6 or 7 streams of income,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, I have only 2. I'm still technically considered a millionaire, depending on, I guess, how you evaluate things. But like I have one, right? One primary stream. I have the real estate side, and I focus in what it is that I'm good at. And a really good for those that are looking to try and like really expand on this and understand this is the idea of where your money is well spent, right? And your energy. And Grant Gunderson, for me, is a really awesome individual who really explains that deeper for a resource for everybody. But I did want to ask you, you know, you talk about the real estate side, you talk about the roofing side, and you mentioned something with the roofing side, how you have like a that's a revenue income stream for you, right? And it's not so much, it's not going to be long-term wealth, but what are your thoughts on like how people can take that revenue, right, and then redirect it back into, you know, long-term wealth? Are you saying that like you use like the wholesale side in your real estate company to find those for you personally, or are you trying to take Jay-Z and put everything underneath it Jay-Z? Is there like a certain process or like a map that you plan to like just pull out properties from Jay-Z, or is Jay-Z the actual entity, or are you separate from Jay-Z and that entity of wealth? I don't know. It's kind of confusing.
Yeah. So Jay-Z is I get where you're coming with. So like Jay-Z is the main entity. So obviously with Jay-Z, you know, the company, the revenue is always going to be in first position with what we're doing there. And then obviously, as long as we have a healthy balance sheet and, you know, we're good on the liquidity side of things, I always want to make sure that, you know, I didn't want to start a company and not be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor either. So one of the main reasons that wholesaling was so entertaining to me is because it took out the third party basis to where I didn't have to depend on someone else for me to find the inventory and the product of what I knew I was going to be doing long term, which is investing in real estate. And so Jay-Z, you know, we have a heavy focus on making sure we're hitting our goals. And as long as that's the case, you know, I always am going to be able to come in there. And if I see a property that I want to take down that another acquisition manager gets in, you know, we pay them what we would have expected to get on an assignment fee or double close fee, so on and so forth, or fix and flip. And I'm able to take those down and kind of cherry pick the ones that I want that best fit my portfolio. And then with roofing, the good thing is my partner on the roofing business, Tony, he's also a real estate investor. He's got a lot of buy and holds. He does a ton of fix and flips. And so our goal with that is to, again, set up our marketing and sales force with what we currently have with the wholesaling side. Because most people that wholesale, once you start diving into these other industries, Tyler, you realize like a lot of industries aren't as in depth as what we do in wholesaling. Like we've got it figured out to a very, very, very far extent compared to most industries and most businesses, especially on the roofing side. And so we're just taking what we're doing from the wholesaling standpoint, the same marketing and sales techniques, putting into roofing. And our goal with that is to obviously be able to have consistent revenue coming in, but taking that revenue from the roofing business and then putting that into, rental properties, cash flow properties, so on and so forth on the real estate side.
Yeah. I love it because like a lot of people have people that are in like starting on the wholesaling side, or even people that are in, other forms of entrepreneurship. They have trouble trying to figure out like how to build the business to where the business is making revenue, right? And then how to take that revenue and still put it back into your pocket for the wealth building aspect, right? The nice thing about having the wholesaling as the base is you have the ability to find the deal. You can still feed the company, right? Even if you're going to do a flip, you can still pass that flip over to a flipping company, still pay your team, right? And you're kind of building more than one company at one time. You're doing the same thing, right? But you're passing those deals. Even if it's a flip, your roofing company can now do the roof for you, right? So that's you're feeding into everything, right? Yeah. And I think that's really powerful, especially since you're taking the same marketing strategies and leveraging it throughout everything. So you have the brokerage in-house. The brokerage itself, it's still adding to revenue, but it's also making it so the cohesion, the credibility of your company, all these things are still all intermingled. And I absolutely love it. I think there's a quote that I'm trying to think of that I can't think of when it comes to trying to keep everything under one roof. And there's some dudes executing that most people don't even know about, right? That do this very, 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 very well.
Yeah.
They literally own every facet of the real estate transaction, from building new construction to apartment buildings, everything.
I saw Steve Trang, he put out a little TikTok video, and we talked about earlier, multiple streams of income. With real estate alone, this guy's found a way to have like 10 to 12 different streams of income that are all symbiotic to one industry, which is real estate. So like, it's a beautiful industry, man, simply because you're able to take so many different facets of the business and, like you said, intertwine all of them to work together and cohesively. And, that's why real estate's so attractive to me as well, is because there's a very wide spread that you can get depending on how far you want to go with it.
100%. Okay, cool. We might touch base on some of these more intricacies later, but let's go ahead and move on to the next question in the gauntlet. What does your routine look like? Specifically in this, I'm talking about your morning routine and your evening routine, nothing in the middle. Okay. So, I know you're in a CrossFit, I believe. So, does that play a part in the morning and the evening? And to be honest, that CrossFit actually makes sense with what you mentioned in the beginning. I always love this as we kind of start unraveling, whoever we're talking to, in this case, you, we kind of see the mindset and how it trickles the same throughout everything. People that are in CrossFit generally have the same type of personality you expressed that you had like in high school, that you have as your number one motivator of prosperity. It's about, like getting that AMRAP, getting everything, PRs, this, like being the best that you can be. No matter whether everybody else in the room is doing better than you, you're being the best you. Yeah. Right. And then you're continually working towards having that number to reach whoever it is that's above you that can do that faster. So what does it look like, man? Yeah, man. So, with routine, I think no matter what it is you're doing, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what endeavor you have, routine is incredibly important. Motivation, that's what's going to get you started, and routine is what's going to keep you going, especially when that motivation dissipates, because motivation's here temporarily, right? It's not going to be what's going to push you past the shitty days that come in whenever you don't feel like doing it. The routine and the discipline and creating those habits in your life is what's really going to allow you to level up and separate yourself from the people who are just depending on wanting to work when they feel good or wanting to show up whenever they feel like it, so on and so forth.
For me, the most important routine is the morning routine. You know, the first hour of your day, it's going to determine what the rest of your day is going to look like. I'm a firm believer behind that. And so for me, I've got a few different things that I do every single morning that I try to stay very true to. One, the minute my feet touch the floor, I thank God for giving me another day to be able to grow and contribute and get closer and live for and through him every single day. Two, you know, a lot of people may not know this, but when we first wake up in the morning, we're in what we call the alpha state, right? So the alpha state is anywhere from 8 to 13.5 hertz. Whenever we wake up, we're averaging right around 10.5 hertz. And so what that means, the alpha state is pretty much saying like it's the gateway to the subconscious mind. So what you're putting into yourself, you're retaining subconsciously without even really knowing it, much more than you would any time of the day. When you get in fight or flight mode throughout the day and you're trying to take a break after, you know, grinding for 3 or 4 hours and listen to a podcast or an Audible, you're not going to retain that information near as much as you are whenever you first wake up in the morning. And so the second thing I like to do, man, is put some type of empowering content, whether it be Audible, whether it be Tyler Austin's podcast, his pump up song, especially at the beginning, that gets me going in the right state. If it's any type of book, any YouTube video, Tony Robbins, I mean, you name it. I want to pour into myself in the morning time. And another huge thing that I do in the morning is I disconnect from my phone. You know, I learned this from a guy named Jim Quick, who's huge on hacking with any type of tips, techniques, so on and so forth to better yourself. And when we open up our phone the first time in the morning, like if that's the first thing we're doing, we're frying our central nervous system. Like we're looking for the notifications. We're getting off beat. We're allowing our alpha state to really lower and not be at that high state that it's naturally in. And so I try to make sure that I'm not looking at my phone for a minimum of at least an hour when I wake up in the morning, other than just putting it on the audio or the Audible or whatever it may be for me to listen to whenever I first wake up. And then that's pretty much it, man. And then throughout the day, as far as like my evening routine, I don't really have an evening routine. You know, I like to play with my dogs. I like to relax. I like to play guitar and chess in the evening. That's kind of like my way to disconnect. I'll tell you what I won't do anymore that I used to do all the time is, you know, back in the day, I would get home, I would take a little break, then I'd go do CrossFit for 3 hours. And then right after CrossFit, I would eat, and then I'd work for another 3 or 4 hours. I mean, literally, it was just nonstop 24/7. And we'll get into that story later on, but that's no way to do it. It's not sustainable. And so in the evening time, I make sure that I'm rested, I'm disconnected, kind of like that first hour of the day. I make sure that last hour of the day as well is something where I'm creative. I'm not having to, you know, constantly have my mind flooding, and I'm just relaxing myself as much as I possibly can.
I love that. We in the Auto Lead Gen Challenge, in that first week, we released this like daily tracker thing that talks about, you know, your deep work, creative work, right, top tasks and things like that. And the deep work and the creative work are actually, like, for me, the two most important things. And it's cool to like leverage that, because like what you prepare yourself, like, I don't know, it's like sometimes if you watch a movie before you go to bed, your dreams are associated a lot of times with and influenced by whatever it was you just watched right beforehand. You know, you start, you know, kind of naturally, I don't know, what you prep your brain with before you go to bed is huge. So I think that's awesome. And I personally struggle extremely with this exact thing, right? Keeping that routine, you know, keeping the work. When you're in the grind, you know, in your building, it's really difficult to kind of let yourself not get caught up in going, you know, and working like 3 hours after you're supposed to not be working.
100%. Do I regret it, Tyler? No, but I mean, looking back on it, knowing what I know now, man, the balance is a real thing. And I think it's crucial for a lot of people at a certain extent. But whenever you're first starting, you know, you do whatever the hell it takes to get whatever you're going after. And that's just part of it. You know, you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice and go through that pain and having that imbalance for a while. But just keep in the back of your mind as you're doing that, like, you want to have a goal date to whenever you start getting the other pillars of your life more balanced out, so you don't hit an extreme burnout cycle or anything like that.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important to, right? We've kind of pegged something. We started saying automate to dominate in the community, and yeah, it's like once you get something and it's processed, like you got to automate. And automation deals with like either having someone else do it, right? Or it means, having something in tech do it for you. You got to start letting those things go, documenting them, because you can't get to the point where you're not working in the evening or you're not working 12 hours a day until you start getting to where you can fire yourself and put yourself in the right position as a CEO, as a business owner. So, and if you're listening to this and you're not an entrepreneur, right, which you might not be, you might just be like, I just want more prosperity. You work at W-2, right, and you're buying rentals on the side or whatever the case is. This involves things around your life, right? If you can do it, start building and structuring your life. Trevor Mock has a really cool system he does where he actually has like SOPs for his household. So things like how to cut the grass, right? When does the filters need change? All those things are all automated and SOP'd for real though. Yeah, it's crazy. So if he's never around, or he's for his exec, if he's like going to go on vacation for 3 months, he can just say, hey, reference this, make sure all these SOPs are completed while I'm gone. He doesn't have to worry about, is my filter? Amazon automatically ships him his filters, right? This is huge. This is the era we live in to create more time. Right. And it's crazy to me. And I've asked him for like the template to give it, because I mean, like, I want to do it so badly in my own house.
Man, if I could have it my way, I would systemize and process every facet of your life. When you think about it, you really can. Like, why not document everything? Because if you can't do something, like, you always want to be focused on putting your attention and your time into the most useful and things that give you the most power and the most energy, right? Everything else, there's a way to delegate, document, process, systematize, and outsource. There really is. So if you get that from Trevor, shoot it my way, please.
Yeah, I will. I'll get you the playbook. I'm hoping you could just give me all of them and then we can just edit. But all right, cool. So what's your thoughts on waking up early versus waking up late? There's a huge, I guess, again, I talk about the myths to entrepreneurship, the myths to success. Some people think that you have to wake up at like 5 a.m. every single morning and start like hitting the road, right? There's just like 100 miles an hour. Others people think that it doesn't really matter what time of the day you wake up, as long as you're doing the right activities throughout the day at the right times, you're going to have the same amount of success as something that doesn't. What's your opinions on this with your companies and in your experience?
So, it really kind of, for me, it goes back to the timing of it, right? So if you're an entrepreneur and you're having to wear every hat in your business and you're having to work those crazy hours, again, man, you got to do whatever the heck it takes. You're going to have to wake up early. You're going to have to stay up late. You're going to have to sacrifice sleeps. You're going to have to sacrifice spending time with friends, sometimes spending time with family. I mean, it literally is going to require every bit of you whenever you're first starting out, especially if you want to compete in today's world. It's a competitive ass world. And if you want to be one of the best in what you're doing, you're going to have to put in some serious work, especially at the beginning. It's like when a plane's taking off, man. What does a plane use most of when it starts off? It uses most of the fuel as soon as it's taken off. Once it's in the air, it's kind of coasting. It's the same way with entrepreneurship. For me, I don't like to mistake movement from progress. A lot of people, if you're waking up at 5 a.m., you're going to bed at 9 to 10 p.m. and I'm getting more done than you by working a 3 to 4 hour shift, then, you need to really dive in and look deeper into what you're doing, because I think it really comes down to, for me personally, and I know this is a very debatable topic, it comes down to what you're doing with the hours in your day. So for me, at first, I won't lie to you, man, I was working 18 hours a day for the first 3 years of me doing this. Like, I was all in, I was consumed, and I was enjoying it for the most part until it got to the very end of that, which we'll talk more about later. But now, I'm at a point where, and the whole time I was doing that, I was thinking to myself, how can I delegate these things? These things I know I'm having to do, but I don't necessarily want to do, that drain me. The whole time I was doing it, I was documenting. I was learning on how can I delegate this? How can I process to a VA, so on and so forth. But to answer your question, I won't go too long on it. I don't think it matters as long as you have progress with what your annual goals are, with what your quarterly rocks are, and what your main focus should be to get you to leveled up to whatever it is you're trying to go to.
Dude, like, I'm so glad you ended it in that fashion, right? And this summary of things that a lot of people don't have in either their business or their personal lives, right? Like, what are their quarterly goals, right? Do you have any boulders? Do you have rocks? Do you have things you're actually aiming towards? Because if you figure out what you need to be in 90 days, the only way you're accurately going to get there is if you reverse engineer back to figure out what you got to do on that weekly. Doesn't matter if it's about saving. It doesn't matter if it's about building business. Doesn't matter if it's about hitting, revenue goals. All these different components are huge with that. And I think this is why a lot of people end up getting into where they're staying up super late because they're catching up throughout the day, and then they're waking up a little bit later, and then they start trimming it back to where they're, having water dumped on their head so they actually can wake up in the morning because they're so drained. They're only getting 2 or 3 hours of sleep at night.
Yeah.
This is because you're not properly segmenting out the things you're supposed to do in a day. Jeff Bezos says that, a CEO and someone in general that's at a certain level should really get to the point where they're only making 3 key decisions a day, 3 key decisions that will affect them, the next 5 years, right? That's like the ultimate goal, right? One powerful decision is just as good as, 6 okay decisions, combined together. Like, it's all about what are you trying to be, and then how are you going to get there? And if you can reverse engineer that back, build a playbook to it, you're going to have a lot of success. And I'm trying to think of the book I read last year. I can't think about it, but it talks about this entirely in your personal life, but I can't recall it right now.
Where you got that, Tyler? You talk about the rocks and everything. That all comes from the book Traction, which is based off the entrepreneur operating system, man. Like, once you realize, because at the beginning, when you don't have structure, you've literally got to, and as an entrepreneur especially, man, we're go, go, go. So we've got 10,000 things in our mind that we want to accomplish in a day, right? And it's unrealistic. And so once you identify, hey, here's what I want to accomplish in 365 days from now, here's where I want to be. And as human beings, we don't want to look at the top of the mountain. We want to focus on the steps to get us at the top of the mountain, right? And so with that's where the rocks come in, 90-day sprints. And those 90-day sprints, we break them down into monthly sprints. And from a month-to-month basis, we break them down into weekly and then daily. And as long as you're doing what you have to do and focusing on those rocks, those annual goals, and you're learning how to delegate throughout that process as well, that's where balance comes in. That's where happiness comes in. And that's where, the book's title, Traction, comes in as well for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, 100%. There's actually 2 versions of Traction. I just started reading the second one from, I think his first name is Gabriel. It's a little bit more centric around the software realm versus just straightly the business realm, but both are fantastic. Awesome. All right, cool. Next question in the gauntlet. How do you stay current, right? You're in a lot of different, places right now. You have your roofing company, you have your real estate company. A lot of the stuff is revolved around real estate in general. So are you focused on reading? Are you focused on masterminds? Are you focused on, I don't know, Google alerts for keywords, which that's a nice life hack if no one knows about that. Google has the ability where you can put keywords. I think it's called Google Alerts. And if you want to put your name in there, you can put your name in there. If you want to put like local things in your market, you want to put things you're looking to buy, track, whatever, it'll send you an email with a notification on if it was ever on Google's radar. So yeah, what does someone like yourself do to stay current?
Well, I'm gonna definitely get Google alerts in my life for sure. You're gonna have to teach me some of that stuff, man. That's I didn't even know that was a thing. That's awesome. For me, man, how I stay current. One of the most crucial parts of me staying current is having a mentor, a true mentor that has taken me under his wing. This guy, it's in my current market. His name's Craig Kosh. This guy has got 11, 12 super successful businesses, man. And the reason a mentor is so imperative, no matter how big or small, man, is because you want to always find someone that's been there, and that's done it, and that can teach you a few things. Obviously what to do, and most importantly, what not to do. These guys have gone through the disappointments you've gone through. They've probably gone through similar failures. They've heard that inner disbelief, that inner voice trying to tell you that, hey, is this worth it? They've gone through everything. And so, it's crucial as an entrepreneur to be vulnerable enough to allow yourself to talk to other people and to know, hey, I'm struggling and I need to learn how to get past this point, or to learn from someone else that's been there. And so a mentor, it's been the biggest help for me, especially once I opened up to it. For the first year or two, I didn't feel like I needed to have one. I was very stubborn. I've been stubborn my whole life. And I went through a very critical stage where I became very vulnerable, man, and realized like I am very breakable. And if I don't talk to people and learn that other people are going through the same struggles who can give me advice, I mean, I'm doing myself such a disservice, because I'm allowing myself not to level up in the trajectory that I know I can, as long as I have the right influence around me and the right circle that I can lean towards. Mentor. And then obviously, I'm what you'd call a visionary with what I do. I love research and development, man, podcasts, listening to podcasts like yourself. I love Wholesaling Inc., Brent Daniels, all those guys. I love staying current with them, Pace Morby. I love being able to watch YouTube videos, reading articles, anything and everything, man. If there's something new coming out or a new strategy or new technique, I want to learn about it. I want to implement it. I want to test and trial it and see if it can work for our business. And I'm always wanting to make sure that, if someone else is doing something that's working, we need to at least try this and see if it can work for us as well. So just constant research and development, man, and never being complacent with where I'm at and being okay with it and always knowing there's areas to improve in.
I love it. Yeah, it's like it's funny because what it is really is it's always being a student, right? Is really what you're saying. Like you're always there, right? You're always there to be number one, right? But you're never willing to say that you are number one because you're always working towards yourself in business and in life, right? Yeah. So that's key, man. A lot of people, they're not willing to just jump in. They'd be like, oh, I already know that. I already know how to market. Like, okay, cool. Well, you probably should listen. I mean, someone might tell you one thing, that totally drastically changes your company. Or even in your personal life, one tip, it's huge. So I love that. Staying current. Mentors are huge. And this is not just in, like business, right? This is like life. You have a lot of different mentors. Like I have one in real estate, which is not, I guess, a true mentor. I don't pay him or nothing. Like or I guess that's whole nother conversation, I guess, on whether your mentor is paid or not paid. But I have people I look up to in real estate, I should say. I've never paid anybody for any mentorship in real estate, but in terms of the life and business aspect, that's a whole nother mentor. And then in terms of like my software company, that's a whole nother mentor, Dan Martell. And what's cool is these different mentors, a lot of them, they cross-pollinate, right? Someone who's successful in business generally is successful in other parts of their life. So if you get one around life, you get one around business, you get one around fitness, you get one around these different things, they all cross-pollinate, and you kind of take a little bit from one, take a little bit from the other on these different core pillars of your life, and it really builds you up, right? You become solid, right? And these are things that me personally, I'm working on. On the life side, because you start getting too heavy on one side, that pillar starts getting pretty damn teeter-totty, and you find it coming over real quick, getting some stress cracks. All right. Cool. I love it, dude. Fantastic. All right, cool. Next question. What is your number one habit? This can be either a good habit, bad habit. You can give us a good and bad habit. It can be any time of the day or life.
Yeah. Man, my number one habit, nowadays, back when I first started, it was just hard work 24/7. I thought being successful was just hustling nonstop. That's literally what I thought success was. I hear people like Gary Vee. Well, if you're working an 8 to 5, well, you need to be working another 6 hours once you're coming home, and I thought that was the trick. And then I started learning about people like John Martinez, who has like challenges of working 30 minutes a week. I mean, crazy stuff, who's still able to absolutely kill it. Right. For me though, for my number one habit nowadays, just based on what I've gone through and, the self-reflection I've had from going through an extreme burnout cycle, which again, we'll talk about later on, is, a very consistent self-talk to myself, Tyler, a self-talk that inhibits self-belief, self-love, and self-worth, man. Because if you don't have that and you're going on this journey and you're going to go through, quite frankly, the shit you have to go through to be an entrepreneur and to get what you're trying to get, man, if you don't have that internal belief, knowing, hey, if one man or woman can do it, so can I, and constantly just being in love with yourself and what you're capable of doing, because that is the God honest truth, man. I'm a normal dude, and to most people my age, I've endured success, but it's only because I had a belief in myself and a burning desire to prove that I can do it. I know that we're all here on this earth for a very clear reason, and we're all living about a quarter of what our actual potential is. And so with that self-belief and always internally working on yourself, man, it's absolutely huge. Because if you neglect that aspect and everything else is going with it, and that aspect stays down, you're truly limiting yourself on what you can become and what you can contribute to in this world, in my opinion.
I love it. That's huge. Like self-belief, self-love, self-worth.
Yeah.
Right? That's amazing, right? That's a really good, I mean, that whole section right there, perfect snippet for those who need to dive into what Justin's all about in one, 30-second to 45-second kind of snip. So I love it, dude. That's huge, right? Like the self-talk to yourself. That's like you wake up in the morning and you step in front of the mirror. Like, are you telling yourself who you are? Sean Whalen talks about this often in terms of like, telling him like, hey, I'm a fucking king. Like I am a king. Like I deserve everything that I fucking have and so much more. The only limiting factor there is like, am I willing to do, what a king would do to get there?
Amen.
And I think that's huge, man. I love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, cool. Next gauntlet. We talked about your routine, right? In the morning and the evening, but based off our last couple questions here, there's a lot in between, right? In order to keep the sanity to not have to work after 5 o'clock or whenever you say, hey, I'm done. How do you structure your day in between the lines to, I don't know, have structure?
Yeah, great question. So, again, first starting out, it wasn't like this, but now in my business, I've got a very macro viewpoint of what's going on. That's where I strive in. I had to work obviously on the business and in the business for quite some time. I think anybody starting a business has to do that and wear multiple hats. For me, I've got a very 50,000 foot bird eye view of my businesses now because I've got the right people in place, right people in the right seats. We've got the systems and structures. We're really operating off the entrepreneur operating system. And so for me, it's constantly making sure my team is happy, making sure that I'm giving them every opportunity to succeed, making sure that they're getting their training, having constant one-on-ones with the team, having constant leadership meetings, just making sure that the pulse and the heartbeat of our business, which is not me, it's the people in the business, are happy. And as a leader and as an entrepreneur, you have to realize one thing, these people, they don't work for you, you work for them. And as long as you can obtain that mindset and every day come in with a contributing aspect to the people around you, you're going to be able to constantly bring in quality people because people care about how much you care and they don't give a damn about how much you know until they know how much you care. That's just sales 101 right there. And so for me, it's constantly efficiency. How can we make our systems and processes better, which it's never ending. There's always something to improve on. And two, making sure that everyone on my team is happy, empowered, and absolutely loves what they're doing and is driven to love what they're doing by knowing what our vision is, our mission is, our core values, so on and so forth.
Dude, I love it. A lot of people don't realize the 3 phases of CEO, like the 3 types of CEO. You just mentioned the third and best type, right? The value of you are there for your employees, not they're there for you, right? And there's a few different types of books around this concept, in structuring this, but I think that I'm 100%, 1,000% agreement with that statement. It's hard to get to that 50% or 50,000 feet view, over time, but you got to just execute on the things we've kind of already talked about, processes, figuring out, your belief, your love, your worth, right? Those all play a part in figuring out where you need to be at. And you're not going to get there overnight, right? It takes time. So
Sure.
I love it, dude. Okay. So we don't do this business alone. It's called Allies to Prosperity for a reason, right? It's because we're trying to build a community of allies, a community of people who are looking to help each other out. Along the way, you've had, I'm sure, the same people in your life. It could be someone that's in business. You don't have to call out names because we've had it where someone was like, oh, you didn't say I was your ally on the podcast. So who are your allies, man? What do you consider the people who are really your boulders and rocks around you to make sure your pillar's strong?
Yeah. So for me, man, I call him an ally and I also call him a confidant, which a confidant is someone who lives and breathes through you, who lives and breathes through the mission and the vision of what you're trying to accomplish in this life. For me, that guy is Harrison Lynn. He's my right-hand man. The business wouldn't be where it is today. The business may not even be here if it had not been for him. He's one of those guys that, he shows up and he's also now a co-owner of the company. He got profit sharing in that, and he's the VP of acquisitions. He's got an attitude, man. Whenever I'm down, he's up. Whenever I'm up, he's up. He's just one of those guys that come in and empowers people, and he leads from the front. He leads by his actions and his words, man. He doesn't just talk about it. He is absolutely about it. And he's one of those guys, if I didn't have someone as an entrepreneur and you're going through this, there's not a lot of people you can relate to. I can't call my mom or my brother and tell them the struggles I'm going through in business, because if you haven't been on this path, you're not going to understand. It's just that simple. It can be a very dark place and a very lonely place when you're trying to create something like this. Like, a lot of people don't get it. And so when you're doing this, I highly recommend to find someone, man, that you can pour into, who is going to accept you and listen to you, even if you just have to rant about bullshit because there's no one else that you can really listen. You've got to have that. And Harrison Lynn, without question, has been that guy for me. He's stepped up whenever I've needed him to, whenever the teams needed him to. And, I couldn't do what I do without having someone like him by my side. There's no question about it.
I love it, dude. It's amazing when you find someone that really just has an absolute synergy with you. And knows you in and out in both, I'm going to just reference again, belief, love, and worth. They have the same one, man. Okay. So that's really, around you, period. Now, because you're in real estate and in your businesses, from a business standpoint, who do you think are your allies that, like, if something was going wrong in your real estate company, in terms of, let's just say, a deal is about to fall through, you can't get something on the contract, do you have any other things that pop up in your head right away? It's like, oh wow, that's gonna fall through, I'm gonna turn over here to try and handle that situation. Because what I love to try to do is people who in their markets that might not have a really good title company, for example, right? That's one of mine. Like my TC, right? Is an amazing ally when it comes to if shit's hitting the fan. She's always there to be able to make sure we can kind of get things going. Doing things outside the normal to make sure that we kind of accomplish our mission. Can you think of anything that kind of comes to mind in your businesses, both from the roofing and real estate?
Yeah, man. So something that I also think is very crucial is being able to be part of communities, man. REI SIF community, what you have going on with automated generation leads and everything else, man. You have to have a community to always be able to lean towards and ask questions on. I can't tell you how many times, Tyler, I have gotten on just a Facebook group, man, like Next Level Flipping, some of these other mentorship groups I'm in, and asked a question and would get just poured into with multiple different answers that made me think in a totally different manner. Whenever you combine multiple brains and multiple opinions, you realize man, there's always a way out of any difficulty that may come our way, especially inside business. And so, having someone like my mentor, Craig, and then having, the groups like your group, Next Level Flipping, and a few other groups that I'm in on Facebook, man, and having like-minded individuals who are willing to take time out of their day, even if they don't get anything out of it, and help you through the problem because they may have been there before or heard about how to solve it in the first place. I think it's absolutely crucial in any type of endeavor or business that you're going into. Just having a good community to always lean on.
I love that. And it's like a both direction kind of thing. Like an ally, the reason why, for example, I use this example all the time. The primary reason, if historically when it comes to wars, we won World War II is the only reason was because we had more allies than our enemies, right? But the reason we had allies is because at that pivotal moment in time, we were giving and taking at the same time, right? There's an equal give. If you're not giving an equal give across, then you're going to get paid. We call them in REI SIF community ninja vultures. We even have a design for them and everything. If you're being a ninja vulture, it gets put in the comments don't be a ninja vulture, right? Image and all. So you got to make sure you're an equal give and equal take, and that's how you build allies that are really what we're talking about in his personal life, right? Those allies come through relationships when people see authenticity and genuality and the ability to really care and not just want. Okay.
Amen. Yeah. And one philosophy we live by too, Tyler, we with homeowners, we talk to anyone. And I think this goes a long way. And when you instill this as a credo and a core value in your life, be willing to give value no matter what's in it for you. Don't always be looking about what you're going to get out of it. Once you are able to give value and give benefits to others and not expect anything in return, magical things will continue to happen for you. And you do that, and you show a homeowner that, especially in our industry. Hey, look, it doesn't matter if you're looking for a contractor, you're looking for another realtor that we're not even associated with. I'll send you 10 of the best realtors in the Metroplex. When you have that and you're in values in first position, things will always take care of himself, because now people know that you care. And that's what people care about most, is how much does this guy care about me? And is he willing to actually help me regardless of what's in it for him or not?
Yeah, 100%. And as soon as you said that, I thought about your guys's kind of logo where it says local and trusted, right?
Yeah.
Like that all plays part of those principles, right? And you got to, as a brand, this is kind of a branding tip. You guys got to put, what he just said, if that's the type of motto and credo, that you follow, and that that's a need, right? Make sure you express that out there in your branding. You show people, what your core values, what your motto, and kind of what you're all about. So love it. All right, cool. What have you found you need to do in order to keep focus? Is it, you kind of mentioned it a little earlier with like not having your phone on you in the first hour, but is there anything that like if you, I don't know, maybe you freaking drink a Bang or a Rain in the middle of the day and you're like, shit, my whole day's gone now. Like you just lost focus because it just drains you. Like, is there any like core tips you can say like, hey, don't eat or do the pepper challenge in the middle of the day? I don't know.
Oh, that's funny. So for me, I would say, what I really have to avoid that I used to do quite a bit, especially in the first, 3 years of me starting the entrepreneur roller coaster, so to speak, is not having too much isolation. Whenever I talk about isolation, it's different than solitude, right? Solitude is necessary time to yourself to disconnect, to step back, and to really realign, refocus, so on and so forth. Isolation is whenever you're taking yourself away from those who need you and the people that you need as well. And so for me, and as an entrepreneur, we've got so much stuff coming on. We've got people that need our attention. We've got 1,000 ideas running through our head of what we should be doing or what we could be doing, and so on and so forth. And so it's very easy to get in a state of isolation for too long. And what I've learned in my personal experience is that once you get too much isolation, it can become the enemy and not the benefit, and that's what ended up happening to me. And, it really took me down there for a while, because I thought that was the answer, to be able to just work on Q2 projects and just stay in my little cave and just constantly work. And it was great for an extended period of time. And then after a while, the ramifications really started pouring in, and I realized isolation is not the friend, it's the enemy, and solitude is what you need to focus on in moderation. And so that's one thing I try to make sure I don't do. I force myself to not put myself in isolation, to take my breaks that I need to, and to get time to myself as I need to, but to make sure I'm not overextending that aspect of my life anymore.
That's a really, really key tip, man. These are really unique responses compared to everybody else. I love it, man. That's huge, man. Like to keep yourself secluded and both mentally, number one, and also on a business front. Like I look at it in kind of two different ways, and I have the same kind of trouble, right? Like I will literally, I work in this room, and I play video games in this room. Like I'm pretty much, I find myself always in this room. And that's why we ended up buying our office building, right? So I can get out, of my home, right? Because you find yourself, if you don't kind of start networking outside and going out, doing other things, you kind of find yourself really getting in that mindset where you're like, shit, you start, even though you have people you can talk to, you start really secluding yourself mentally and physically.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it, man. Getting outside in the backyard and just shooting my bow, for example, like that is like, something so small, right? But it's a huge thing.
Small things are huge in that aspect, man. Whenever it comes to disconnecting yourself and taking time and getting out of that fight or flight mode, doesn't matter what the heck it is, man. If it's just a simple walk around the neighborhood or playing with your dog, just find time to disconnect. You don't have to be in this constant grind mode, because I promise it's not sustainable over time. It's just not.
I love it. Awesome. All right. We're nearing the last question here. That is a summary of all questions. In a second. We got this one first. Nobody talks about failures. Let's hear something that you learned from, right? Like, what is your biggest failure that you can share to people so that they also don't do the same thing? I mean, you've already mentioned quite a few different failures that people shouldn't do, right? But what is something explicitly that you kind of went through that you kind of be an ally about?
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about on failure too, I think it's important for a lot of people to understand this. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. When you're going after anything, you got to be willing to look silly. Don't get analysis paralysis, information overload, and just try to study things and wait for the perfect timing. There's never going to be a perfect timing. Be willing to look stupid, because everyone else that's at the point that you want to be in they've looked dumb too, and they were okay with it because they knew that was going to be part of the process to become the better self that they were going after. Right. For me, man, my biggest failure without question would be the fact that, like I've kind of brushed up on this throughout this podcast, is I was consumed, man. I was consumed by the business. I was so freaking excited. Whenever I left Open Door and started this, only thing I could do, I didn't care about hanging with friends. I didn't care about if I was at a family Christmas outing or Easter. I wasn't ever there. I was always in the business. I was constantly thinking about it. And at first it was great because I was like, man, there's no one that's outworking me. I know for a fact, no one's studying as much as I am. No one's, I was plotting 24/7. And I thought that was the way to the golds, man. And I thought that was what success was. And fast forward, man, 3 years and 4 months, I was doing that nonstop, Tyler. And then, March of this year, right around the time of COVID, I hit the most extreme burnout that I've ever experienced in my entire life. I mean, I'm talking like it folded me, dude. It absolutely destroyed me in a way to where I was at the point, and, I brought up Harrison Lynn earlier. The business would not be here if I didn't have the people on my team, the people that were willing to rise up and take over whenever I had to come out, man. I had to take 4 months off of the business, not doing anything. Like I could not even think about going into work, doing anything. And it all came down to me having all of my eggs in one basket. We have our pillars of life, 5 or 6 pillars that are important to a successful life, man. What I realized through this process, success is not just success in business. There's so much more to it in this life. And I had it twisted, man, for the longest time. And once that happened, it was the biggest godsend I've ever had in my entire life, because it allowed me to step back, reflect. People on my team started exploding. Leadership started rising to the top. And it gave me a lot of time to have self-reflection, man, to dive into myself and say, hey, what the hell is happiness? What is true happiness? And what do I want the rest of my life to look like? Because the only thing I knew at that time, Tyler, was that I was never in a million years going to experience what I went through during that time, ever. It was the darkest time of my life. It destroyed me. I couldn't think about doing anything during that time. And it took me 4 months to bounce back. So anyone that's out there that's working insane hours and thinking that's the way to it, man, really, really be cautious on that and really focus on the pillars of your life and having balance in your life. Because I promise you, man, over time, it'll catch up to you, and it won't be enjoyable. It'll be a very painful process. And that by far was my biggest failure, man, was thinking that that's what success was, going 90-0, 24/7 for 3 years and 3 months straight. Then come to find out, man, there was a much higher power talking to me saying, hey, this is not what it's about. I'm going to teach you a lesson so you don't go down this path ever again.
I love it, man. And I'm assuming a lot of that ends up revolving around the seclusion you were talking about and kind of the times that you hinted, and we'll talk about it later. Like, so if you guys rewind back, right, you can kind of see the breadcrumbs that led up to that being what happened in his life. So that's huge, man. Like, it's really difficult to get out of a rut mentally. It's one of the most, you talk about the different forms of metal. I don't think there's, in your body, right? Your brain, that thing that makes you function. If it gets a cage around it that is titanium or whatever else, I don't know what the strongest metal is, diamond, freaking infused metal, I don't really know, but it breaking out of it's like the hardest thing ever. And if you start recognizing these micro ruts, right, where you kind of like and they start enclosing together, where like, okay, once a week or once a month, I'm starting to realize like I'm kind of gloomy, I'm kind of getting down, I'm kind of like feeling overwhelmed, I feel like no one's around me. Like, you can start seeing a pattern in yourself. You really watch that it starts coming, and then sooner or later it's like every day, and then every minute of the day, and then it starts enclosing on you, kind of like kind of like a part of your body somewhere else that's like, let's say one of your joints, right? That over time you can start feeling it's painful, and then it's more painful, and it's kind of always aching. It's the same thing. Your brain is no different part of it. It is a ligament, but it's the most important ligament, right? It's from the neck up is you wouldn't live without it. And probably this part. Yeah, like there's a lot of parts you couldn't live without, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like, don't let that shit kind of delve in, because it can be hard. And this is why allies are so important, right? Because once you get to a point where you are there, right, being able to have, like you said, you had someone that could bounce back. They stood up.
Yeah.
So I love it, man. I love it. Awesome. Okay, the last question, which apparently I don't have a little pop-up for it, but every one of these questions, all are centric around one statement. That statement is, why do you wake up every day and not quit? It's kind of like what you like about prosperity, but it's at another higher level.
Yeah. So for me, where I'm at now, I would say two reasons, man. One, I like to constantly have a conversation with my older self, and I want to make sure that guy's happy. I want to make sure that whenever I'm at a certain age, I'm dividing and I'm doing everything I can. I'm conquering right now so I can divide my spoils later down the road, man. And I want to make sure, as far as my health, my wealth, my success, my contribution, when I'm at that age, I don't want to have regret. I mean, it just scares the absolute hell out of me to not live up to the potential that I could be. It's hard. I get it. Everything worth having is an uphill battle. And so that's definitely one of them. Two, especially now where I'm at with other people on my team and us continuing to grow, it's not about me anymore, And so the days I don't feel like doing it and the days I'm down in the dumps, I've got a pretty large reminder now, like, hey, dude, there's people depending on you. There's people that have kids. There's people that are making sure, like, dude, they're coming to work because they know that you've laid this platform out. And every day is crucial for you to make sure that you're giving these people the opportunity and allowing them to succeed at the highest level you possibly can. And so, that would be the second one, man. It's not about me anymore. It's about other people. And as you have a business and you have people coming on, man, you realize like you're very small compared to the big picture. And so the big picture to me is empowering and providing opportunities to as many people as I can. And so that's definitely what motivates me, encourages me not to quit anymore either, is knowing that it's way bigger than me now.
Dude, I love it, man. Fantastic culmination of the gauntlet, right? Like that's, again, like, I don't know. I'm still stuck on the self-belief, self-love, self-worth. I think those three statements really are like everything. But I want to set people up for success, man. Something I love to do is the ninja tips and tricks. Okay. These are going to be personal questions. They're ninja tips and tricks for those who are looking to try and, delve into Justin Peters' life, right? If they ever go to a Facebook group, or they ever see you in person, or they ever see Justin anywhere out there, now that he's an ally, right? And they've heard your voice, they've heard your story, they're an ally, right? Yeah. What are tips and tricks that we can give them in order to essentially, right, bolster that relationship? So for you, man, I usually ask 3 questions per ninja tips and tricks section. And they're all kind of customized, and I think of them as I learn more about you, and so do they. So the very first one that I want to ask you is in revolving around hunting in your bow. Because I'm fairly certain that you do enjoy the bow. So I'm curious, what is it about bows, right, that intrigue you, and what is your favorite brand of bow?
So I answered the second question first. Matthews is definitely my favorite brand. And what
Ocala, Florida.
What intrigues me about bow hunting, man, and just hunting and being in the country in general, 1 is the challenge of it, 2 is the piece of it, and 3 is how close you get on a spiritual level to God and to nature, so on and so forth. I absolutely love it. It's a very, very, very challenging sport, and there's always room to grow on it. There's always room to grow. And once you're out there in the nature and the practice that goes into doing something like bow hunting, and you're actually able to put that into use and to use to feed yourself and others, it's a beautiful circle of life, to say the least.
Yeah, and you're savage as fuck doing it. So it's like the best of both worlds, right? You get to be I mean, it's like you're I don't know, back in the 1800s or something. I love it, dude. I'm a Hoyt guy myself.
Okay, I like boys.
We can still be friends.
Yeah.
I love it. Perfect. Okay, cool. The next thing that I want to ask you, because of the fitness, because of the hunting, because of all that stuff, what is your favorite form of protein? Or if you're vegan, what is your favorite form of fake protein?
Protein. I've tried the whole vegan thing, man. I couldn't do the vegan protein. I would say it is it's whey protein, man. I'm pretty heavy on whey protein. There's a certain kind, I can't remember the exact name, but I'd have to look on it. It's on Amazon where it just comes once a month.
Yeah.
But it's a whey protein, and yeah, that's typically what I use, man.
What about actual physical meat?
Oh, meat. So, obviously venison. I love steaks as well. I can't eat steaks a whole lot nowadays. My digestive, it's a long story, but I can't eat as much steak as I'd like to. And then we have a cookout, man. We eat a lot of pork and just really anything, man. I love all types of meats. Like, I'm the least pickiest eater on the planet. And so, like, anything you give me that's protein, that's meat packed, I am probably going to be game for it. 100%.
All right, cool. So if anyone's ever at a mastermind, they see you stand there and there's like hors d'oeuvres, just like grab a little bit of everything and you'll be all right.
And I'll be good.
All right, cool. Sweet. I love it. All right. So my third and final question for you is, what is your favorite workout, kind of like, in order to really not go into frame of mind that you're kind of in? Do you like running? Do you think like AMRAPs? Like, what is kind of something that someone can do, maybe every single day in order to kind of keep themselves loose and keep the right state of mind, both feeding your mind and your body?
Yeah, man. So I like running. I think running is always a great resort. I obviously love doing CrossFit workouts, AMRAPs, EMOMs, so on and so forth. But running's a very a good exercise because, one, it allows you to overcome that voice in your head that's wanting you to stop, that's wanting you to quit, and you can constantly conquer it, which is allowing you to conquer other things that may come up in your life as well. And another thing I love about running too is it's much easier to pay attention to any type of audible or anything that you're listening to. So you can usually knock out two birds with one stone, as far as podcast or a book that you maybe listen to, so on and so forth. When I work out, it's a lot more difficult for me to like dive into a podcast or an audible versus, putting my running shoes on and taking a mile or two run.
Yeah, I've tried doing that too, like doing some sort of body weight exercise kind of cycle, and it's really difficult because you start thinking you suck too much. You just lose everything else. I love it. Okay, cool. That is the end of the Ninja Tips and Tricks personal questions, y'all. So just to cycle back, he's Matthew's bow, man. He loves nature because it kind of puts him in sync with everything. Any type of meat, really. So I don't know. I don't think you're going to go to a mastermind, like a real estate mastermind. It's going to be like venison or elk or any sort of meat, but
great one though.
Throw a steak on there, small piece, nothing too big. Make sure you don't kill his gut, and then go ask him to go for a run. Right, see if he wants to run from the hotel, an evening run or something like that. And some light conversation. So I love it, man. It's one of my favorite parts of this podcast because it really lets us delve into kind of learning more about the individual, more about kind of what are these things that it doesn't matter what the personal questions are, because we have like all this typical stuff beforehand. Everybody is unique in what their personal, questions are. And that's what I love about it so much. All right, cool. So, what would be really cool if you guys ever met Justin, he's going to be there and you're really trying to get on his good level, like bring like a bow and arrow, like kebab or some shit. Like that would be dope. Like, I don't know, like go unique with it. These three things I just realized can be put together in a pretty cool package. But all right, cool. So ninja tips and tricks for marketing and sales here at REI. So if we really focus on the ninja tips and tricks that we can do to create sales and marketing ninjas. So I want to tap into your experience as a real estate professional, as an entrepreneur in general, on what it is that you've done in your company to kind of level up inside of not only the real estate community, but kind of get where you're at. So I got a few questions for you. I know the answer to a couple of them, but one of them I don't. So very first one I have for you is what is your primary prospect? How do you find the data, which it is that you are going to market to?
Yeah, so our primary prospect, as of last year, 46% of our leads came from driving for dollars. So what's so fascinating to me about driving for dollars, I like to be as competitive as we possibly can. Whenever you have a driving for dollar, we use Deal Machine, by the way, shout out to David and his whole team. They're amazing. When you have a driving for dollars list, that's one of a kind. That's not something you can get on and purchase anywhere else. Having boots on the ground and seeing a house that may be vacant but may not show up in the vacant list, so on and so forth, is absolutely huge. And so we get almost half of our deals from driving for dollars and having boots on the ground with our marketing efforts.
I love it. Driving for dollars is an amazing tactic. I'm going to delve a little bit deeper on that though, because a lot of people have issues with driving for dollars. They really don't know what to add, what not to add. Have you guys found that you really kind of just segment that data out and you say, okay, here's like really messed up stuff. Here's stuff that might only need windows. Here's stuff that might only need a roof. And how do you leverage that across both businesses now? Do you guys use driving for dollars specifically for roofing? Because I'm sure that's how a lot of roofers would prospect in the past through driving for dollars.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We are going to be using Deal Machine strictly for roofing leads as well. So we're going to be doing the same type of concept. And the house may be in perfect shape, but if we see where there's deterioration on the roof side, we're going to start building our list that way as well. So great question on that. For Deal Machine, we do that. We have what we call 3 buckets. We have what's called driving for dollars bulk. So that's going to be majority of the leads that we get from driving for dollars, right? So that's going to be houses that are just a little bit beat up. Someone's living there. It's not just in absolute shambles or vacant, so on and so forth, right? And then we've got our we called them asterisk leads. And the reason that name came about, because when I first started, we literally got on our cell phone and on our notes, if it was a really shitty house, we would put an asterisk next to it. And so the name just kind of stuck with us. And so those are going to be the ones that are going to be usually your highest converting. It's a house that is someone's problem and they need a solution to it, right? There's metal stacked into it. There is, weeds are growing up. You can just tell that it's a rundown house and it's vacant. And then we've got also like what we call our asterisk owner occupied. So the asterisk vacant and the asterisk owner occupied, which means that, hey, obviously someone's living in this house, but this thing might as well be vacant because how could someone live in there first, right? So we've got our 3 buckets: driving for dollars bulk, asterisk vacant, asterisk owner occupied, and then obviously we have our vacant lots as well in another bucket, and that's how we segment all of them. And what we've seen, believe it or not, the majority of our leads come from driving for dollars bulk. The second come from asterisk vacant, and then the third come from asterisk owner occupied, and then our last one is vacant lots.
That's interesting. Have you broken down? Well, I'll leave that for another time because I'm curious if I'm sure you do. You have it broken down to which one's actually causing the most profitability on that. Yeah. Because it's kind of like you generate leads through high equity, you're going to generate a lot more leads. So that's probably why your your asterisk bulk is going to be your highest lead generating. But I'm curious if there's any revenue differences there. So, okay, cool. Second question. Okay. So the way you gather that data is very simple. You drive around, you take photos, you systematize it. It's not very simple. Like the process to build that team is not easy, right? Deal Machine definitely makes it easier with their tool and their systems and their hiring of drivers and all the other concepts that they got built in. In fact, we actually just released a video on our YouTube for those that are curious on how, like I just closed, and it was like 75 grand or something like that a couple weeks ago from D4D, pushing the REI sift, and then cold called, right? All sequentially automate to dominate, right? Shameless plug. So now that we have the data, right, what do you guys find being the most successful and easiest way to scale to get your, like, if it's somebody that's new to real estate, what would be the quickest way for them? Not necessarily, well, let's do it both ways. Not only to get revenue the fastest, right, to get the return on their driving for dollars the fastest, but then what would be the next thing to do in order to try to get them up to that next level in terms of stepping away from the business, or I don't know. I'm thinking it's maybe cold calling initially and then direct mail, or maybe cold calling and then hiring somebody. I mean, in your experience, like, what's the best process here?
Yeah, man. So for me, whenever I first started out, that's my day consisted of, okay, I'm driving for at least 3 hours a day. I'm cold calling for at least 3 hours a day. And then I'm going to be working on just the business as a whole and everything else, follow-ups, systems, so on and so forth for the rest of the day. Right. And so I think the quickest way to get in, man, is, you don't have to have Deal Machine either. Get on your phone, use your notes on your app if money's an issue as far as getting Deal Machine, and start going and driving like crazy and typing in addresses that are absolutely in bad shape, and then get on Appraisal District, which is all public data, and go in there and say, okay, when is the last sales recorded deed date? If you see this house has been lived in for, over 7, 8+ years, there's a good chance that that homeowner is needing a solution to that house right there, right? And so as far as getting in, the quickest way, I think, without question, is in finding the money, get Deal Machine. Deal Machine also has skip tracing services. They've got mailing services, so on and so forth, and calling and getting just the best, worst houses that you possibly can in your Deal Machine list, and starting there, and you learning everything from the script, so on and so forth, as far as calling them, right? And then transitioning from there, I think once you start getting a deal, always have a goal. So, hey, whenever I hit X goal, then I'm going to start doing Y. So once you get that goal in, let's say you make $5,000, we'll be willing to reinvest that back into the business. And then from there, work on, texting. I would say hiring someone to cold call for you is great. I think SMS, just based on our data, is one of the greatest marketing tools that is out there right now, and making sure that you can learn it first yourself, which is crucial. Don't try to delegate without knowing how to do this stuff yourself. That's one of the biggest aspects of delegation. Have a rough idea and a good basis on how to do this stuff, build it out, and then have enough confidence in that process to then delegate and coach, train, outsource, so on and so forth. And then after the SMS, man, I would say, working on hiring someone to be your SMS specialist. And then from there, pouring into them. And then whenever you need to hire more, well, hey, that person now has been taught by you. You put the hours into them, and then they can kind of duplicate themselves. And then you do the same thing with appointment setters or people that are making calls for you, so on and so forth.
I love it, man. You, for any of those that are in real estate, that are going to be listening to this, or maybe not in there, you can literally do that same exact tactic in a W-2, automate it. You can have someone driving for you. You can have your mailman driving for you. And then while you're at work, I'm not saying do this, but, while you're at work, have those SMS campaigns going out, and then, just have your phone there, text them back, and then you can, once you figure that out, you can automate it, and you could be working a W-2 and still closing some deals and working to get yourself out. I'm not a strong believer in just like leaving your job just for the heck of it. It's a huge thing in business to have the ability to show a W-2 until your business gets to the point where it can pay you a W-2. And then after 2 years after that, you can basically kiss any sort of like financing and stuff like that goodbye, which is why we talk about private financing, all this other kind of stuff. But I love it, dude. That's fantastic. Okay. Last question for you, Justin. So we talked about marketing. We talked about kind of your favorite prospect, what would be the best way to kind of go about it for somebody. You like SMS and then automating that process. But you also got to close these deals, right? And in Driving for Dollars, since that's the primary thing that you use, it's kind of what do you do? You call and be like, hey, I realize that your property looks like a piece of shit. Do you want to sell it? Is that the conversation, or is it really something different?
Yeah, I'll go back to sales 101, man. Before you make a sell, make a friend. It's very simple. We've built our entire process. We've invested in John Martinez's training. I've tried a lot of them. Todd Toback's great. Brent Daniels. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but what's worked best for us and that we have hammered down on is John Martinez. The guy has a psychological method on how to talk to these people in the best way to make sure, because here's the thing, when you're starting out, you're going to have a lot of fluff. You're going to have a lot of maybes, right? So John really teaches you to say, hey, there's yeses, there's nos, and there's no maybes. And he formulates the right questions to be able to tell these people, hey, look, I'm not here to waste your time. Most of the time I hear people say this, or this, it typically means they're not wanting to sell. Let's just be upfront with each other. I don't want to be bothering you or bugging you on this. Is this something that we should maybe entertain later down the road? Things like that, man. Once you learn these scripts, and these, you don't have to buy his course. Get on YouTube, get on articles. John's been on, hundreds of podcasts, man. He pours them all into it. Before I could afford any of these training materials, I would just listen to podcasts. I would take notes on them, man. Implementation from the learnings you have is crucial. So don't just hear this stuff, jot it down, practice it, record yourself, talk to yourself in the mirror, make people think you're crazy because you're trying to get this stuff down because it works. I mean, he's truly mastered the negotiation tactics, and he's truly mastered how to make sure you're spending your time on the highest converting leads, and to make sure that you're not wasting. Because when you're first starting, man, you're going to spend a lot of time thinking that you have a deal on the line, and these people are just going to spin you in circles over and over and over. But when you learn how to ask the right questions, it takes away all the question marks on there and allows you to really narrow down and focus in on what you should be focusing on in the first place. So that's my 2 cents, man. If you're going to learn from anybody, I highly recommend learning from John Martinez, getting on YouTube, buying his course. I'm sure there's going to be a special coming up with it being holidays, and really knowing how to talk to these people. I wouldn't recommend just calling people out of the blue and just trying to wing it. I would have a plan on how you're going to talk to these people. And that way, you can save a lot of time wasters for future people that you talk to, and you can really be narrowing down your database you're building on the highest converting leads that are out there.
I love it. Fantastic. Yeah, you got to have a plan. Don't just wing it. At minimum, write down, that conversation, see kind of how you want to structure it, and then practice in your brain, and then call a friend, practice it with them, and then kind of give that conversation a try. It's kind of nice. And I always recommend to people, it's like, should you be doing that against, the ones that you are pretty confident they need to sell and potentially messing up those conversations? Or can you maybe get some data that is a little less likely, like just like a straight, maybe you just get 1,000 high equity records, skip trace them, and just practice conversations there, Yeah,
absolutely, man. I mean, I think the more you practice, the better you're going to get. It's very simple, be willing to, and role play with your friends. Like you said, your wife, your girlfriend, your best friend, whatever it is, like role play and become a student of the game, because it's not just something that you're going to come in and wing. There's so much competition nowadays, but once you can nail that part down, one, obviously building rapport and making sure they know you're there to add value regardless of what's in it for you is one of the first steps. The second step is asking the right questions. Once you get and once you do this, Tyler, there's only so many questions you can ask. It's not a complex thing, and once you understand those questions, it's very easy to know who you need to be dealing with whenever you're having these conversations.
100%. I totally agree with you. 1,000,000% actually. And dude, that ends it. What I'm going to do is I want to value your time, man, but I want to ask just to the group really quick for anybody that is watching live right now. Do you have any questions for Justin that you found him as an ally, things that we've talked about that you can ask him? We'll just take a couple really quick if anybody does have anything. And then we'll kind of get going. And why you guys ask in the chat, what I'd love to know, Justin, is how can people reach out to you? How can they find more about what you got going on? I know you got a TikTok, you got Instagram, you got all these different things. And after you say that, what is it they should even be reaching out to you about, right? Like, what is your unique selling proposition?
Yeah, man. So the best spot to reach me, Facebook. I don't get on Facebook a whole lot anymore. Honestly, it's going to be Instagram. My username is JUUUSTINPETERS. So it's my Justin Peters, but with 3 U's on there. And as far as what they're reaching out for, man, I'm a go-giver. Like if you need help, I may not be able to respond right away, but if you have a question, or we can set up a time to chat for 10 or 15 minutes and you've got clarity on what you need help with or what blockers, let me know. I've been on a handful of podcasts before, and I truly do want to help people. That's my main goal in life, is to empower as many people as I possibly can and allow them to reach their full potential. So if there's anything I can do based on my experience, I'll either tell you what I know, what I feel can help, or I'll point you in the right direction in the best way that I possibly can, for sure. So
I love it. And I always premise that after they answer that question with, remember what I mentioned earlier about ninja vultures, right? Okay. If you're going to lead with value, kind of like what Justin was saying earlier. So always try to reach out and don't just continue reaching out. When he replies once, respect the fact that you actually got a response back, because Justin is very busy. as well as all the other allies here that we bring on the show. It takes a long time. That's why we don't do weekly anymore, because it takes a long time to find somebody that has the right mindset, the right business structure, and the right everything to kind of be here on Allies to Prosperity. So take advantage of their time, but don't take advantage of them. Okay. With that being said, looks like, I don't know if Justin's frozen or not frozen. Oh, you're back. Okay, cool. You're really still, maybe. Cool. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, which is pretty common, being that we're live. And, usually people don't know, but here's one right here. Okay, right at the last second, Dylan, you're about to lose it. Dylan asked a question. When are we going to go bow hunting? You gave a lot of value today, so that's my question. When are you and Tyler going bow hunting? I don't know. That's a great question. We should totally.
Whatever you want, man. We come to cut this anytime you want, Tyler, and I'll definitely take you bow hunting, bro.
Yeah.
Even though you shoot a Hoyt, I'll let it pass, and you can still come and bow hunt, even though you shoot a Hoyt. It's all good.
yeah. There you go. Well, maybe I'll cover it up with a sticker and spray paint.
Yeah, put a Matthew sticker over.
Dude, I love it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Allies to Prosperity, man. Justin Peters is an amazing individual. Take advantage of this, loop it back. Self-belief, self-love, self-worth. If you have those three things, you'd probably watch this like 5 times. Okay, so I appreciate you guys very much. Justin, any last words that you can share to everybody to close out this episode?
Man, the only words I have for anybody listening is, whatever it is you're going after, first step above all of it, man, is having a deep belief, knowing that you can do it. If one man or woman can do it, so can you. No matter what you've been through, no matter what your past has looked like, if you've gone through hardships, hard times, you've got an upper edge on most people, because now you've got a story that most people don't have, and a drive that most people don't have. So feel fortunate. And, if you're going to blame all the bad, you better blame all the good for what you've gone through as well. And knowing that can be the main reason it's going to catapult you to get to the level you're wanting to go to. So more than anything, man, just know you can do it. I'm a normal guy. Tyler's a normal guy. We just have a burning desire to want to reach our full potential. And I firmly believe with all my heart that anybody in this world can do it if they have that discipline, commitment, and the right community to lean on with whatever it is they're going after.
Dude, awesome ending. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the screen room. I'm going to real quick close this out, and I'll be right there. Okay.
Oh, man, appreciate you, dog.
Thanks. Guys, that was just, I don't want to say it was my favorite, because I don't want to be rude to the other guests, but I really enjoyed talking to Justin here. The self-belief, self-love, self-worth are 3 words. I don't know. I'm just stuck on that. That is key. It's very unique, very personable, right? Talk just now. So definitely reach out to Justin if you need him for anything, and make sure that you guys head over to our YouTube channel. You can type in REI Sift in YouTube. You'll find our YouTube channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. Same thing with our Facebook page. Just search REI Sift. Make sure you hit the bell. You can search Allies to Prosperity. There's a Facebook group for Allies to Prosperity. You can follow that as well. Make sure you get notified when we come live so that you can try and hop on. Otherwise, be sure to check out the iTunes as well as Spotify and all the other locations that we're at on the internet. So other than that, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys in the next Allies to Prosperity episode. Thank you guys so much. Peace out.